Hey, welcome back to my channel and to another meal prep. This one, as you notice, is a day early because if you've watched the past couple weeks, you know that I'm headed tomorrow to meet to get Sebastian, my grandson. So there's going to be no cooking tomorrow. I even got something for David to make so he'll at least have something to eat while I'm gone. But today's meal prep, I'm going to tell you what, knocked it out of the park. And I don't say that braggish because these are not my recipes. None of them are my recipes. These people knocked it out of the park. These were 3 delicious recipes that I would gladly make again. The first one for breakfast is a keto French toast egg puff. That is from peaceloveandlowcarb.com. Lunch, and listen, I tasted one. I had 2 for breakfast, and I gave David 2 when he came in, and boy, they are so good. I will be making those again. For lunch is a low-carb chicken pot pie soup. It is also from Peace, Love, and Low Carb. And oh my goodness, it is delicious. I made David, I already had it divided into my containers, but while he was cooking his breakfast, I told him, get a spoon and taste it. And he said, oh yeah, that was good. So, number 2, delicious recipes. The third one is a dessert. Now y'all know I told you my sugar cravings, I've got over my sugar cravings, but if you put it in front of me, I'm still going to be tempted. Well, Sebastian, you'll see in my shot, I have his stuff on the counter. You'll see what he has, and one of the things he has is the Chips Ahoy, Chewy Chips Ahoy. He loves those things, and so do I. Used to be he would sit there and eat them, and I would sit there and eat them, and then before you knew it, I had to buy him more cookies because I ate them. So I have a little something to give me a little sweet treat while he's eating his. And you know, I'll probably have to buy him some puff cakes because he loves his puff cakes, which, if you're new to my channel, those are the little bitty cupcakes. Ever since he could even talk what they were, that's what he calls them, puff cakes. So I'm sure we'll have to get some of those because that's just a given at Momo's house. So I made a keto chocolate mousse. Oh, it's good too. Now you can use any chocolate. I use semi-sweet chocolate. So I think Lily's makes some milk chocolate. Next time I might try it with that. I'll see if it's still the zero carb chocolate. I think it's 0 carbs because the erythritol is considered a sugar alcohol, if I'm not mistaken. Anyway, the carbs that and it is the Big Man's World. Let me forget. That's the Big Man's World. That's that recipe on that website. So the carbs on the screen, since I told y'all I hadn't been tracking, I'm not even going to enter them into my recipe builder. I'm just going to go with the carbs that they have because they're all so low carb that they're not going to matter in the scheme of my day, the way that I eat and the way I keep my carbs down. So if they're off a carb, up or down, it's not going to matter. So the carbs I give you are the carbs directly off of their website and their recipes. So with all that being said, let's turn around and get started cooking. And if you try any of these recipes, let me know. Now I'm going to put them on my website with just a link to the recipe. Since I followed them exactly like they were, didn't change anything, I'm not going to type them out. I'll just make a page on my page for you to find the recipe and go to it and see it for yourself. So if you make them, let me know if you like them as good as we do. Now let's turn around and get started cooking. We're going to start our soup first because it has to simmer a while. I heated up 2 tablespoons of olive oil, actually avocado oil, and this is the leftover celery and carrots from the baby shower, and it worked out perfect for this recipe. It's the equivalent of 2 carrots, full-size carrots, and 2 stalks of celery. Dice them down pretty small, and we're just going to cook them in this oil until they are like crisp tender. Now I have it calls for 1.5 pounds of chicken. I didn't weigh it, but I have 3 chicken breasts, which I think is close enough. So we're going to add that. We diced it bite-sized pieces. So add that to the pot. And then we need 3 cloves of garlic. You know I use the kind in the jar. I got about a teaspoon there out of my jar before I emptied it out, and I'm throwing in 2 more from my new jar.
So 3 cloves or 3 teaspoons. Now for our seasonings, we have 1.5 teaspoons of salt, which I would probably knock it back to 1 teaspoon of dried thyme, a teaspoon of onion powder, 3/4 teaspoon of black pepper. And we're going to cook that down until the chicken is completely done. Now that the chicken is done, we're going to add chicken stock. You can use stock, broth, bone broth, whatever it is, use 4 cups of it. And if you're using a heavy bottom pot, put a little bit in there first to deglaze the pan to get up the little chicken bits. You don't really have that problem in a nonstick pan. So when we add the chicken broth, we're going to bring it up to the boil and simmer it for 10 minutes. Now, after the 10 minutes, we're going to add the rest of our ingredients. We have 1 cup of heavy cream. And if you're watching points or calories, I imagine you can do whatever kind of milk you want. And then a 1/2 cup of peas, which divided out is not really going to hurt the carbs. And a 1/2 cup of shredded cheddar cheese. Now we're just going to keep this at a simmer and let it go 30 to 40 minutes and stir it frequently. Here it is, and you can see how thin it is. The recipe says if you want it thicker to add more cream or more cheese, and I didn't want to do that. I wanted to use xanthan gum because that's popular in your low-carb cooking. You can see it's just a powder. And you can get it at Walmart. You can get it at most grocery stores. The package says 1/4 teaspoon per cup of liquid. Now, do not put that whole amount in there at one time because you're going to have a mess. What I did was I did 1/4 teaspoon at a time until it got to the thickness I liked. And I think it ended up being maybe 7 of the 1/4 teaspoons. And then it got to a point to where I like it. This was my last teaspoon. I just wanted to show you it thickens it up right away. You don't have to cook it like cornstarch. But if you don't do xanthan gum and you're not really worried about your carbs, you can definitely thicken it with some cornstarch. But you see, that's the thickness that I was happy with. Now all we have to do is serve it up in our little, portion it out, I guess you could say, in our little containers. I'm just going to hold it up and show you. See, I thought that was a good thickness for soup. And boy, oh boy, is it delicious. Now for our keto French toast egg puffs. I already have the wet ingredients in the blender. That's 8 eggs, 8 ounces of regular cream cheese that has been softened, a teaspoon, let me look at my notes, a teaspoon of vanilla, and 2 tablespoons of heavy cream. Now that was 1/4 cup of coconut flour. And this here is 2 tablespoons of monk fruit, the granulated, a teaspoon of baking soda, and a 1/2 teaspoon of ground cinnamon. Now we're going to blend that until it is completely combined. And I did have to take it down and scrape the sides one time to make sure all the powdered stuff was mixed in. We're going to divide this into our 12-cup muffin pan that has been sprayed, and you want to fill these almost to the top. And there was enough to go back and add to the like the smaller ones. This will bake at a preheated 350-degree oven. Now this is what mine looked like after 25 minutes. I could have backed up to 20, but they're not burnt. You just want to make sure the middle is set and not jiggly. I didn't realize until I was looking back at this that I was off screen, but just take a little rubber spatula to loosen them up. Don't turn the pan over. I guess, I don't know, maybe they'll stick, I'm not sure, but just use a rubber spatula to ease one out. And you can see here, it's set up, it's a perfect little muffin. Now, I'm going to give the taste test. I'm going to show you how to serve them. 2 is a serving, and I'm using the sugar-free syrup because we want to keep this low carb. Plus, when you have diabetes, you want to stay away from the sugar. And then powdered monk fruit, or whatever your favorite powdered sugar substitute is, or you can even leave that off, but I always put powdered sugar on my French toast, so I'm going to put it on this. Now, I give it a little taste test. Let me show you the texture of it first. Hold on. So I wondered when the recipe said puff what it would look like. But you can see it's a nice moist little, to me it looks like a little bread pudding type thing. But I give it a taste. And I watched myself when I played this back. And I can see myself talking when I started clapping my hands. I was so excited because it was so good. Now the next thing we're going to make is our chocolate mousse. We start with 2 cups of heavy cream. 1 cup we're going to put in the little pot here and just bring it to the simmer just enough to get it warm. Now I have 1 cup of chocolate chips. These are the sugar-free chocolate chips. I'll show you in a minute what they are. Just pour the hot cream over the top. Add a half a teaspoon of vanilla, and we're just going to let it sit for 1 minute. Not touch it for 1 minute. Here are the chips I'm using. It's the Lily's semi-sweet. They're sweetened with stevia. There's different kinds. You can use chopped up chocolate bar, whatever kind of sugar-free chocolate you want to use. Whisk it in really, really well. Make sure all the chocolate is melted, which after it's set for 1 minute, everything was completely melted. I didn't have to work at it at all. But you do want to get your cream and your chocolate completely blended. Now, at this point, you are supposed to add in the rest of the cream before you put it in the refrigerator. But I completely missed that part on the recipe. And you will see when it comes out what I had to do to make it work. So add the rest of your cream, blend it in, cover it, refrigerate it for 2 hours. Now, you can see how thick it is because I didn't add that cream. And what I had to do, I'm showing you here that I just now realized. Because I didn't realize it until I took it out of the refrigerator and actually reread the recipe. So I took my mixer and broke apart the chocolate as good as I could before I actually put the rest of the cream in there. And at this point, I am just hoping and praying that it works because I didn't know if it would or not. So I get the chocolate broke up and then I added in that other cup of cream. Now be careful. It splattered everywhere when I started. I even started on low and it just splattered everywhere. So I blended it a little bit and then I went in with my spatula to scrape down the sides. And I'm going to play a little bit of music. When I get up to that point, I'm going to play a little bit of music and I'm going to let you see real time how quickly it was to get it to stiff peaks. You can see how quickly that whipped into a mousse, and now I'm just going to divide it out, and we're going to take a look at the wheat. Here are our keto French toast egg puffs. You can see there's a couple missing because, like I said earlier, David had some for breakfast. Then for lunch is our low-carb chicken pot pie soup. I will be making this for supper one day. It is just that good. And then finally for my dessert, and I'm going to show you a little sneak peek of Sebastian's cookies. That is our keto chocolate mousse. So while he's eating his cookies, I'm going to be having a little scoop of that. And it's supposed to be 8 servings, which I will probably make it be 6 servings, probably half of that, I figure. And so anyway, that's what I'm having this week, and I will see you on my next video.